another episode of King Jing Things. I am King Jing. He is Mike Barnett, and today we are bringing you a preview for the 2025 PGA Championship. This is the 107th PGA Championship so far. It is taking place on the grounds of Quail Hollow. Mike, you obviously know a little bit more about the sport than I do. Can you tell us a little bit about Quail Hollows? What's sort of the challenging parts to this course, and what should us as casuals sort of be looking out for this weekend?
Well, first and foremost, Jing, good to see you. As always, it's always a pleasure. Excited to talk golf, and I'm excited to do this a little bit differently than we've done in the past, where we're just a little more casual talking. So I'm really looking forward to that. Quail Hollow is a golf course that we see on the PGA Tour every year. So it's been on the PGA Tour since 2003. They've played one PGA Championship there in 2017, won by Justin Thomas, who is obviously in the field this week. And the thing about this course is it's just really long. And especially with the rain this week, it's been raining since Monday. It's really, really wet right now. This is going to go in favor of the really long hitters. So your Bryson DeChambeaus, your Rory McIlroys, this is going to be a really good week for them because the way the course is set up, and it was built back in the early 60s, maybe late 50s. Basically, with the way that golf is turned, with them getting so much longer when hitting, like, if they hit the ball far enough, they're driving it over the bunkers that normally come into play. They're really positioning themselves to almost make the golf course 10 times easier, and PGA Tour pros have been saying it all week, that the guys that hit the longest are the ones that are going to have the most successful week. It's not shocking. We see it every single year. We can get into how I feel about that soon, but that's a little more on the course and how it's playing this week.
You mentioned it at the top that it's sort of been raining down here in the South. This course is located up in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's gotten some rain throughout the beginning of the week. I was reading a little bit earlier about how obviously a lot of the practice rounds ended up getting either rained out or it's just obviously wet everywhere. As somebody who has only been golfing like a handful of times, how does a waterlogged course sort of affect people's play? I read a little bit about it, like whether or not like does it affect or does it sort of provide value for somebody who can hit the ball farther? How does the ball sort of roll down the green? Uh, I think I saw that like Rory had a little bit more of an advantage here just because he sort of lofts the balls up more. How does that affect a golfer if the entire course is waterlogged?
I think a good way to explain it, think about like Fred Couples at the Masters, who he's much older these days. He's not hitting the ball as far as some of these guys. But when his ball hits the fairway, he hits a kind of lower ball that will roll, uh, maybe 20 or 30 extra yards after he hits it, where he can't really pick the ball up anymore like he used to do. So think about the guys that like to hit these really low shots and they hits the fairway and it's going to roll 30 yards. These balls are not going to roll. They're going to hit the ground and stop. So the idea is, how can we hit it as straight as possible, as high as possible, where it's basically just going to come straight down and stop no matter what we do. So, guys like Rory, as you said, hit the ball so much farther. So they're just going to do that, and it's going to work out better for them. And again, still keep them out of those different bunkers and other things that might have been affecting them in the past. Whereas some of the shorter hitters are unfortunately might be leaving themselves on a par four over 200 yards, and that's just very not ideal at any golf tournament. And the water is the thing that's affecting that.
Now, I was trying to read up a little bit about the course just beforehand, but I did see that the last three holes is known as the Green Mile. Can you tell me anything about that? Well, what makes these three holes sort of damning, unforgiving?
So this is where, like, even if you hit the ball really far, you still have to be precise. And so you have a 500-yard par four at 16. So the tee shot's really important. Again, this is where those shorter hitters are going to have so long into the hole. And there's also water to the left. So like if you miss to the left, you're going in the water, even to the point, and I think they've grown the rough a little bit more, thankfully, because there's nothing worse on a golf course than watching a guy hit the ball on the green and fall off into the water. It like some people think it's great because it's like part of the game, but it's like, no, it's not. Like you can hit to the right of the hole and then end up in the water. Go fuck yourself. That's so stupid to me. But so they've grown the rough a little bit, but you can't miss left there. And you also, if you miss right, you realistically can't hit it past the hole or you're going in the water. So it's really tough there. Hole 17 is a 223-yard par three. That speaks for itself. Just with hazards all around, put it on the green, you're pretty much safe, but it's probably not a birdie hole. And then hole number 18 is a really narrow 494-yard par four. So when you think about golf, where you're trying to score is your par fives, right? You're normally your shorter par threes you're trying to score, and then your par fours that are moderate you're trying to score. None of these holes, in my opinion, are the holes on the course you're looking at and saying, I'm trying to score on that hole. These are let's get our three pars and let's go on to the next round, because they can turn into disasters.
So you're basically just trying to survive out there.
Yeah, just to finish your round, nonetheless.
You mentioned them a little bit earlier. Let's talk about the two favorites of this entire tournament, and that is Scotty Scheffler, who I guess could be probably considered the best golfer right now. Would you say that?
It's tough because it depends who you ask, right? Like Scotty Scheffler's been the most consistent golfer over the last 3 years. Other people are saying Rory McIlroy, who is the other favorite, is playing the best golf right now, especially since he won the Masters. He's won 3 times this year. He's been playing really well over the last 3 or 4 months. So it's almost a toss up of which one of them is playing better right this second. And then to me, and we'll get into all of the rankings, Live Golf still matters and is still a tour that people play on. Joaquin Niemann, even though he doesn't show up in majors, has won plenty of tournaments over at Live so far this year, as has Bryson DeChambeau. So you take the bias out of it, there's a lot of really good golfers in the field this week, which makes it really tough to choose.
Have there been any storylines that you're sort of keeping your eye out on? Obviously, I feel like the main one that I've seen the most is Rory McIlroy. People jokingly call this the Rory McIlroy Country Club just because of his past performances there. I'm pretty sure he has the course record. Am I correct in saying that?
Yep. He has the
All
course
right.
record. He shot a 61.
All right. So you would expect him to almost be the favorite here. Do you believe that after winning the Masters finally, he's sort of gotten the monkey off of his back? And do you think that he can sort of go forward and succeed without overthinking his performances, or is this sort of just who Rory is?
I think the overthinking the Masters specifically is over. So does that open him back up to win a bunch of golf tournaments? I don't know. I watched him play last week and he really played good at the beginning, looked like he was up in the leaderboard, and then didn't play great on Saturday and played fine on Sunday. So, you know, people are trying to talk about this season so far and just like they've done with Scotty Scheffler, try to compare it to dominant seasons that Tiger has had, and it's not even close. It's such a dumb comparison. People need to stop saying that. Uh, you know, Rory McIlroy doesn't have anything to prove at this point. He won the Grand Slam. Good for him. But realistically, I don't, there's a lot of, I feel like pressure still being put on him to win because he won the Masters, and people are talking about, oh, well, he's going to win the calendar Grand Slam. Nobody's won the calendar Grand Slam. What the fuck makes us think he's going to do it? And there's so much, we might be in the best time of golf with competition, realistically, of all time. I don't think we're ever going to see a calendar Grand Slam. Now, granted, let me take a step back. Maybe there has been one way back before I was alive, but since I've been alive, there's not been a calendar Grand Slam. Tiger Woods hasn't done it. I don't think anybody's going to do it.
Right, that would make sense. Especially considering there hasn't been any Grand Slams besides Rory since Tiger, and that was like early 2000s. So, I mean, it at least hasn't happened in our lifetime. But I do feel like that's sort of what the media is sort of obviously that's their job. They want to push some sort of narrative, some sort of story, and it does seem like they're pushing the calendar Grand Slam on Rory, which is just I don't know. If you have a guy here who seems to fail to meet expectations, I mean, the expectations were set so high for him as a kid. So it's sort of like, not everybody is going to outperform such high expectations. We see LeBron do it in basketball, but really, what other guy has sort of done that for us? So to put this on Rory, that he sort of has to win this calendar Grand Slam seems outrageous to me.
It is outrageous. And it brings me to the next person that we're thinking about that's getting a lot of pressure put on him this week is now that Rory McIlroy has done the Grand Slam, Jordan Spieth is getting all this pressure and all this talk about, well, is he going to get the Grand Slam now? Because he only needs the PGA Championship at this point. Um, he's just not playing well right now. He really hasn't played well in what feels like a few years. Every time he seems to start picking it up, he seems to lose it again. He said this week, though, he said, if I could win any major, it would be this one because I saw how much fun Rory had winning and how much relief he had winning the Masters to get the Grand Slam. Jordan Spieth's obviously a little bit younger than Rory McIlroy, and he's in the same boat. Because he came in and was so successful so young, the expectations for him every single week are really high. And yet somehow what does surprise me about the media is that Jordan Spieth's pressure still is lower than Rory to go win the calendar Grand Slam. Like I have a hard time understanding why, you know, I guess you got to make a topic out of nothing a lot of times, but let's make a topic out of something that's just not going to happen. I know people love to say it, but everybody's like, oh, Rory, he might go on to win all four. No, he's fucking not. Sorry, I don't give a shit. I'm not a huge Rory McIlroy guy myself. Good for him. He won the Masters. Like, I really don't care what he does at this point. Like, I want to see other people do it.
Right. There's a young crop of people coming up here, we're ready to take the mantle, one of those guys being Scotty Scheffler. We sort of brought him up a little bit earlier. To me, it kind of seems like the only big one that he can win is the Masters. And I mean, if you're going to win any of the major championships, I guess it would be the Masters. But do we have a problem here with Scotty Scheffler with the fact that he can't really win any of the other major tournaments? And it kind of does seem, as an outsider looking in, like I said plenty of times before, I'm just starting to get into golf and I'm really seeing the ins and outs. I'm trying to pay a little bit more attention, but Scotty Scheffler does seem like he's sort of been propped up as the guy, but he's only won the Masters. Do you see a scenario? He's obviously the favorite to win this weekend. Do you see a scenario where he can obviously win this? Like, should he be the favorite here?
Scotty Scheffler should probably always be the favorite at any golf tournament right now, just based on his performances for the last 36 months. He's the most consistent golfer that we have seen. It would be really hard to bet against him at any point. I don't think there's any issue with realistically, like if you look back at past PGA championships, even the US Opens, and I think he's going to struggle in the Open Championship a little more than some guys, but he'll kind of figure that out. He's always so consistently towards the top, but it's taken every golfer's best to beat him in a major. So, you know, he doesn't feel like a lot of times you'll hear him after some of these majors. He's like, I don't feel like I played that well, but he's like 12 under and he's like three off the lead. And you're like, how do you feel that way? Like, I would love to feel that way.
Exactly.
But realistically, like, if that's where you think your game is, you're not wrong. And I would recommend anybody, if they haven't, go watch Grant Horvat's match with Scotty Scheffler on YouTube. First of all, I love the fact that Scotty Scheffler was willing to go play an 18-hole match with a YouTube golfer. It was actually really great to hear him and get to know him a little bit better from his side and what he thinks and how he plays golf. And, that's the kind of stuff that opens your eyes to like, yeah, that's why he's the favorite. I get it. Watching what he can do is just different. Is it the greatest of all time? No. Could he be in the next 15 years? Who knows? Who am I to say? But yeah, realistically, he's got to be the favorite, and he's going to be the favorite almost every week, all season long.
Well, I'll be letting you know right now, I will not be throwing money on him because every single time that I've ever bet on Scotty Scheffler, he has not won. So,
Sounds like I'm
uh,
putting money on him then.
I'm reading just here. Jordan Spieth hasn't won a tournament since 2022,
Yeah.
over 3 years ago, the Heritage.
Yep.
So the fact that he is even getting any pressure to win this seems a little bit insane. But I guess, like you said, like the media is just trying to push this narrative that he could be the next one. I mean, it makes sense if he's already gotten three, so like he
Yeah,
could
he's
be
just
the
the
next one.
closest.
Yeah, so. Uh, but putting a lot of pressure on a guy who doesn't seemingly need it, it seems like just being there is enough pressure. So don't know how I see him performing. Do we have any long shots that you're sort of looking out for? Dark horses, like I read a little bit, maybe Patrick Reed, because he obviously had a hell of a showing at the Masters. I think he placed third. And the last time the PGA was held here in 2017, he came in second, and he's posted two other top 10 finishes. So I don't know what his odds are set at. I guess we can go look at this in a little bit, but uh, who's someone like Patrick Reed that could sort of be a long shot to win this thing for you in your eyes?
Patrick Reed is definitely a long shot. I mean, he played good at the Masters, but he didn't play very good in Korea last week. Not that they necessarily resonate together, but golf is just one of those sports. Like, if you're usually playing well when you win, like you're not playing poor. I, but Patrick Reed, where he is lucky, is Harold Varner III is on his live golf team, and he is a member at Quail Hollow and has been walking around with Patrick Reed all week already going over things that Patrick Reed needs to know. And people might not think that stuff like that is important, but knowing where to place the ball or knowing how a green is going to break could be the difference between winning or losing a tournament. So these small tips that Harold is giving Patrick Reed could really put him in the driver's seat. The other guys I'm looking at both the Georgia boys, Sepp Straka and Keith Mitchell. They have both been playing really well. Sepp Straka is the only other person on tour that's won twice this year, and he won last week, which is a good omen for knowing where your game is at. Keith Mitchell played really good last week. The only problem with Keith Mitchell is like he'll get to the top, it seems, in the first 2 days, and then it's just all downhill from there. So if he can somehow sustain 4 good rounds, anything is possible. My other dark horse, though, and it's crazy because I don't really see him as a dark horse, but I have to because of the way he performs in majors, is Joaquin Niemann. Like, he's the best golfer on live right now, or at least having the best season for the second year in a row. But for whatever reason, when he gets into a major, he just doesn't have it. And it's like, if you think about tennis, right? Like tennis has its 4 majors. Like if you're not competing in the majors, nobody's talking about you, right? And that's kind of how it is in golf. Like the casual fan only watches the 4 big tournaments of the year. And unfortunately, they never see Joaquin Niemann play well. But he plays so good over at Live, and he's played great on the PGA Tour too. So I'd like to see him succeed this week. Whether he wins, just get a top 5 at least. Like something like that would be really good, I think, for his confidence going to all the majors going forward.
Speaking of the top five, why don't we go ahead and pull up the odds over here?
Pull him up, pull him up. Oh man, I just got us demonetized. Darn.
We'll go ahead and use FanDuel Sports top five finish. Let's just say I gave you $50 and just said, "Hey, go sprinkle it wherever you want." What would you spend that $50 on here?
I would put my money just based on odds on Justin Thomas for a couple reasons. One, I think he has the chance to win. He won the tournament in 2017 at Quail Hollow. He's very good at Quail Hollow. So I would be surprised with the way he's playing that he wouldn't if he didn't get a top 5. Again, I think he has a chance to win, but a top 5 to me, I would never say it's a lock, not in golf, but a very high possibility that he does.
You would put all 50 on Justin Thomas?
Yeah, fuck it. Because I mean, Brooks Koepka is also very interesting to me. Because if I was taking my money, I'd sprinkle some on him too. But I don't know, man. I think I am biased towards Brooks Koepka all the time. One, because I love him because he went to Florida State. But like when he won his majors, he just comes out of nowhere, man. It's crazy. Like he could suck when he was on the PGA Tour, he could suck for weeks, come in a major and then dominate. Like he just has that clutch gene that like we just don't see out of people. So like I just wouldn't be surprised. I put 25 on Justin Thomas. 20 on Brooks Koepka, and scroll down a little bit. I'm throwing 5 on Sepp Straka. That's what I would
To
do.
say, sprinkle a little bit on the Georgia boy.
Yeah,
He's coming off of a dominant finish. You might as well
absolutely.
just roll with who's hot right now.
I like
There's
it.
my Patrick Reed down there, plus 1,000. I also had Jason Day as a long shot. He's won the Truist Championship before back in 2008 on this course. He's been very consistent throughout the season so far. He's had 3 top 10 finishes, has not missed any cuts in 9 starts. So uh, there's another little money sign right there. Another plus 1,000.
He's been playing
Uh,
really well too, but I think he's kind of been bothered by a back issue over the last week. So, anytime you hear that, I mean, he's in a position where he might withdraw. Same with Michael Kim. Michael Kim has a chance to withdraw this week. He withdrew from the Truist Championship last week. So those are definitely things we want to keep an eye on.
And just I've seen Shane Lowry just hanging out atop of these scorecards. Plus 700 seems pretty decent. I know at least for a little bit this past weekend he was sitting atop. So
He's been playing
uh
great golf. I mean, it's undeniable what he's been doing on the golf course. Uh, so top 5 is possible, but something about this golf course I just don't think is going to fit him to win.
what else could we look at over here? Look at the tourney specials.
Ooh.
This almost seems like free money. Top 20 for both DeChambeau and Rory McIlroy. Obviously, both of them have the long ball here. This is where, obviously, both of them are going to succeed. Their play style is nice here. I feel like with this, we should see Rory in the top 5. I don't see any world where he shouldn't or he's not up there, just because of his past history at this course. But at this point, it's more like whether or not Bryson DeChambeau's iron play is going to stand in his way. Like, do you think his drive and his short game is enough to hold him in the top 20? Because that just seems it's free money.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I would say that they both would, but you know what they say in football, any given Sunday. And realistically, it's the same way in golf. I mean, again, if we go back to some of the majors that we've seen people win and like how they've won it, and then you look at where your top guys are, and you're like, going into that tournament, you would have bet them to win. They didn't even make the cut. And it's possible, regardless of the experience on this course. Like, I would be really curious. I mean, golf is probably the hardest sport to bet, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, I would put up if I had give me $50 more, I'd throw $50 on Rory McIlroy and Bryson to finish in the top 20 because to me that would feel like a lock. And I even liked right there the plus 135, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, and Bryson DeChambeau all to finish in the top 20. I would have a hard time not seeing Scotty do it. So if we think the other two are going to do it, I actually would worry more about DeChambeau than I think I would Scheffler, even though he does hit the ball far. And Bryson did put a video on his Instagram today. It's playing the first 9 holes. It was a minute 46. Every single shot that he hit on the front 9, and he shot even. So even is not going to get the job done this week. So hopefully he's figuring that out because the putter did not look great.
Here, I'm giving you another $50. What are we sprinkling here on the tournament specials brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook?
Man, I would love to go for the any two of Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm, and Xander Schauffele to finish in the top 5. But that's again just a bias pick because I love Bryson and I love John Rahm. Xander, I don't think is completely back from his injury enough to do that. So, but I think I would throw 10 on there just to feed my happiness of wanting that to happen. I think I would put let's go 30 on the Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau to finish in the top 20. Like, it definitely might not happen, but I have a hard time not seeing that happen. And you know what? Throw 10 on the Justin Thomas and Ludwig Oberg to finish in the top 5. Justin Thomas
Sheesh.
can win this tournament, and Ludwig Oberg is one of the best iron strikers in the game. I mean, he is just really good in majors. He just shows up when it matters most. He hasn't won one yet, but he's always in the top 5. So, like, if I'm gonna throw $10 on something and I want to like hope, that's the one I'm throwing. Like, I don't care if I lose this $10, but damn, if I win, I'll take my 220.
What else could we look at? You know what? This is just a straight up win. It looks like Justin Thomas's odds just decreased.
Which
I'm
is kind
giving
of
you
crazy.
$100 here for this hypothetical. $100 doesn't matter if you lose it or not. It's not your money. What are we doing? How are we
I'm
breaking that up?
I'm throwing 20 on Scotty, 20 on Bryson, 20 on Justin Thomas. Scroll down. 20 on Brooks Koepka at plus 4,000. And then I'm throwing the other 20 on Sepp Straka plus 6,500. I will make my money back if almost any of those guys win.
Seems like you're riding heavy with Straka, which is cool with me. Georgia boy will always support that.
I just think
Uh,
from a standpoint of like who's playing the best in golf, he's got to be up there. So go Dogs.
Go dogs. And then
Circle.
doesn't surprise me, generational hater for Rory McIlroy. Just don't see it happening. This is his course, Mike.
I don't care.
This is the Rory McIlroy Country Club.
I don't care. I hope he just gets really fucking lazy and misses the cut. Maybe not for the bets I just made, but honestly, it wouldn't hurt my feelings at all. I don't know. Clip it all you want, people. He just does not do it for me. He doesn't make me want to watch golf more. He doesn't make me excited after watching him at the Masters. It just all felt awkward to me. I don't care that he's won a Grand Slam. I'd be so much more excited if Jordan Spieth won the Grand Slam than Rory McIlroy. Like I grew up with Rory McIlroy, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, I grew up with Rory McIlroy, and I just love seeing him get." I don't give a shit. I really don't like him. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's. I really do think it's just the fact he doesn't like YouTube golf, and that just fucking kills me.
I was gonna ask like let's get to the bottom of this because obviously like he grew up as like a prodigy, a child prodigy. You know they've been sort of throwing this guy down our throats for our entire lifetime. It seems like but would you say it's more of a YouTube golf thing? Is it like he's stuck in his old ways? Because obviously golf as a sport is like a is an old man's game. It seems like they are very grasped on to tradition, and YouTube golf has definitely grown the game, but do you think it's growing maybe not for the right reasons, but it's given a whole new perspective on golf to the younger generation, and it's sort of getting them into it more. But do you think in his mindset, it's sort of like we are disgracing this very traditional game by acting wild in the golf carts and this little shit talking that you see being recorded. uh Hell, I told you the other day when I was out golfing, my buddy was trying to tee off, and there was these two guys in the golf course. They decided to go do the worm down on the green and tackle the flag. Like obviously I don't necessarily want that when I'm out there playing, but
Yep.
uh what do you think YouTube has sort of done for the game?
The people that are doing the dumb stuff that you just mentioned are all stuff that people have been doing way before YouTube Golf existed, and nobody on YouTube Golf is doing that. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
not what YouTube Golf is promoting, so I don't really worry about that. I really do think that YouTube Golf is promoting the game in the right ways because if we're being honest, 5 to 10 years ago, especially before COVID, golf was dying. Old people watched golf. We know what happens when old people die and they don't watch golf anymore. They don't have ratings, and that's exactly what's to compare it to something. That's exactly what's happening in NASCAR right now. NASCAR went on an entire field day media road trip after they had more viewers than the F1 race in Miami a couple weeks ago. But if you went and looked at the demographic, 75% of them were 55 or older because young people are not watching NASCAR anymore besides me. And that demographic of the younger people were all of F1 Miami's demographic because of what they've done. golf is trending in the same direction as F1, where younger people are taking the time to actually sit down and watch golf on a Sunday because they're getting into the game because they're watching creators on YouTube and they're enjoying it. I don't think Rory McIlroy necessarily hates YouTube golf or goes out of his way to dislike it. I think it's just not a part of him, which is why I understand me being a general generational hater can just be dumb sometimes. But I also there is an aspect where I was like, if he really thought it was something that would help grow the game, he'd be more prone to help people do it. And it kind of goes back to the Bryson Rory thing, which is a storyline again, and it's kind of becoming a thing, it seems. It's like Bryson DeChambeau legitimately high fives every single kid at a golf course. That changes that kid's life to want to play golf more. As much as people don't want to acknowledge that, it's like, oh, it's just a high five. As we get older, yeah, we don't give a shit. But he stops to sign every single autograph that comes. That's stuff that matters. And Bryson DeChambeau is a YouTube golfer at this point. He's a professional, but he's also a YouTube golfer, in my opinion, because he puts out so much content and people like to watch it. Whereas the guys like Rory, they don't do stuff like that. They don't really care about the fans, in my opinion. I don't think they do as much to get the fans involved, which is to me how these guys get paid. If we don't show up to golf tournaments, they don't get paid. They don't have sponsorship. They don't have this stuff. And that's where I am like, don't shit on it. If you don't do it, fine, but don't shit on it.
I feel like, obviously, like we mentioned, Rory was sort of brought up in golf. He was always sort of propped up to be this next big thing, and whether or not he has met those expectations, that's a different conversation. Uh, and it's not necessarily a attack on DeChambeau either. He's obviously a very talented golfer, but there are different levels of golfers who are like me. They might not be the best out there, but they're making a name for themselves within YouTube, within TikTok, and I think that leads them to a lot more opportunity, where we're seeing these YouTube golfers go on these maybe not big tours, but they're playing in these uh bigger, more popular with the younger crowds tournaments, with all of these creator classics. And we just saw, who was it, Barstool and Bob Does Sports. They're coming together and they're putting on more tournaments for that level of golfer. And honestly, like that could end up being more popular than stuff that we are seeing on CBS being televised to us, just based on accessibility. You can just go onto YouTube and you can see these guys that you watch, that you hear talk on like podcasts and stuff, play with some bigger names. You're seeing more creators sort of come together and get more eyes on the product, and I only see a benefit in this. So I don't know why you see these bigger name golfers not necessarily wanting to give back to the fans. I mean, that goes across all sports. Obviously, you can go to a football game and have a guy blow you off. It's not just uh, golf, but I feel like golf is a little bit different because it almost seems like it's more of a sentimental environment. You're very close with all of these people. You might be right there on the rope, seeing these guys tee off. And it's a little bit more of a personal experience when you go to these tournaments. So it should never be seen as an expectation. I think Charles Barkley said it best. Like, I am not supposed to be your role model, but you mentioned it, like just a small, you're at the first hole, you're with your kid, and DeChambeau tees off and he immediately goes and like gives knuckles to your kid. Like, you probably just made a fan for life right there. So the fact that Rory might give like the cold shoulder to a kid of all ages or of all people. It's one thing to be a grown man being like, "Oh, give me a high five, Rory." He's not gonna come do that. But like, you're making a kid's year. You're making a kid. It could be life changing for that kid. So I like what I'm seeing from DeChambeau personally.
I just always look at it like this. Like, don't you feel like you enjoy things that you can relate to more? And when you think about yourself or you think about a sport, like when somebody gives you an opportunity to relate to them, doesn't it make you want to root for them more or understand them more? Like, think about any sport realistically. Like, you know, I know a lot of people that like Tyrese Halliburton because he made TikToks with his girlfriend. And like to some people, they might find that stupid, but like there's a lot of females out there, for example, they're like, oh, I like this player and I would root for him because he just looks like he's having a good time on TikTok. How can you doing something outside of what you are paid to do ever hurt you unless it's like purposely there to hurt you? You know, I, I just find that like if I can relate to you in any way and hear you from a perspective that isn't just watching you walk on TV and hit a golf ball, I'm immediately more intrigued to watch you and learn more about you and root for you.
I'd agree. Yeah. It's just making yourself a little bit more personable, a little bit more available. And yeah, like you mentioned, if you can relate with somebody up there, then it's going to help that personal connection that you have with that guy. And like I said, he wins a fan for life off of that. And obviously it's a great way to grow the game just in general. So uh yeah, I don't think all of these guys should be going out there and being like, this is my job. Obviously we see people like Nikola Jokic. He goes to work. He goes and he's the most dominant basketball player that we've seen in the last couple years in the NBA. But it's not basketball is not his everything. He wants to go home. He wants to uh,
Hang with his horses.
hang with his horses, do it. I'm sure if you could ask him, would you rather be the MVP of the NBA or the best jockey in the world? He's choosing a jockey every single time. Unfortunately, the man is 7 feet tall and 300 pounds. So that is never going to be a world for him. But, there are guys who do dedicate their entire life to the game. And Bryson DeChambeau kind of seems like he's like that. Um,
And to
and if
mention, he
it,
was one of the most hated golfers when he first came into the scene and has like completely 180'd his perspective because it's not that he really changed necessarily as a golfer. I mean, he'll tell you that he changed a little bit, but he just came in with the narrative of like, this is what golf was always taught me to be. And he was like, but that's not me being myself. Now he's himself and everybody loves him. And the people that don't dislike him are just holding a grudge from what he was before, or they don't like, or they're the traditionalists that don't like stuff like that. And that's the kind of stuff that like, we all get caught up in. Like I'm being a generational hater to Rory. There's a lot of people that would argue with me and be like, you need to turn your brain on and look at all the other stuff, and you're only paying attention to these things. And I'm like, yeah, that's what opinionated life is like. That's what we all get to do. But you know, is what it is.
Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Just to stay true to this video series, to this podcast, whatever you want to call it. Mike, I'm going to ask you to give me your biggest reach. What is something, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a win, but what is your hottest take that we might see this weekend?
That's a really good question, and I've been thinking about this, knowing you were going to ask me. And I think my biggest reach is that Phil Mickelson is going to finish in the top 10 this week. I don't know why I feel that way, but he just has a way in the PGA Championship. Obviously, he won the one at Kiowa Island a few years ago. I think this is the type of course that's going to fit him. As he's gotten older, like, Tiger's obviously like taking a bunch of steps back with injuries and stuff, and Phil Mickelson to me is still playing like maybe not as good all around, but he's still hitting the ball far. He's one of those guys that's working out, getting in shape all the time. I just could see this being a successful weekend for him. So I would say a Phil Mickelson top 10 is probably in the cards this weekend.
It looks like FanDuel currently has that at plus 1400. So certainly a reach. This is another guy that I remember watching with my dad, because I'm pretty sure Phil Mickelson was his favorite guy. I think he was just rooting for somebody against Tiger.
That happened for a
Uh,
lot of people.
right. But he has sort of changed his entire image. Obviously, like he's growing out the beard a little bit now. He just looks like a brand new person out there.
let's talk about another YouTube golfer, Phil Mickelson, a guy that goes and plays with Grant Horvat. They're doing their 2v2 series. They've played Dustin Johnson and his brother. They've played John Daly and John Daly's son. This is a guy that, like, he brings everything to the course. His whole attitude, his personality. He talks shit. Watching him play with Grant is so funny because, like, he'll change his rangefinder without telling him, or I'll tell him a lie and then tell him after that he lied to him. And, like, you see Phil Mickelson for who he really is when he's playing on YouTube, and you see it probably more now in Live because, in a way, I feel like the freedom has really shown up in golf in the opportunity to do that, not just in YouTube, but with Live Golf, which again resonates with me as a person, why I enjoy golf so much more. I just think Phil Mickelson was probably, to some extent, a douchebag when he was younger. But when you're winning, and he says it all the time, he's like, when you're winning, you can do whatever you want. He always says that, like, on YouTube. I was like, you know what? You're probably right. It doesn't really matter if people like you or dislike you because realistically, you're the one playing on the PGA Tour at the time and winning golf tournaments. So who cares?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but you're right. He's kind of changed that image for sure.
So, if you've learned anything from this video, it is maybe YouTube golf, TikTok golf, whatever you want to call it, is letting you show your personality as a golfer a little bit more nowadays. You're getting to know who the person is, you're able to relate with them a little bit more, and it is only a good thing. So, Rory, if you have a problem with this, uh, shove that 7-iron up your ass.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Rory McIlroy will not be watching this video, nor will he ever care, and that's totally fine with me. He can shove 2 7-irons up his ass.
Hey man, you never know. This might just be brought across his desk.
That would be
But
crazy.
Mike, appreciate you hopping on. If you guys like this video, throw us a like, comment, tell us who you think might be winning the PGA Championship this year. Most importantly, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.